What's up, everybody? This is the 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe, and about the all-new Santa Fe here, well, it is a radical departure from the prior generation. Obviously, as you can see, it's blocky, it's bold, it's in your face, and it's kind of controversial with the styling, especially out back, which we'll see in a second. But as far as up front here, well, this one is the earthy brass matte color we're looking at here, and they have a lot of great color choices here for 2024 on these, and it's really great they offer that. But you'll see you have these H pattern headlights up front here, and the LED strip that goes all the way through the middle. You have active grille shutters here in the lower part, and you know, just a very bold front end here. You even see more of the H pattern with the way you have the body colored portion there, and it's a really cool look. And then coming over to the sides here, you know, you have chunky side mirrors, you have the chunky fender flares here, and overall, you know, you've got a 21-inch wheel as well on these calligraphy trims that we have here. Very large, makes a big statement. And you can also, if you want to have a little more ground clearance, there's 30-inch tires you can get for the XRT version. It gives you a little more ground clearance, and that is one area where these have gone down a little bit. You have only 7 inches of ground clearance now on Santa Fe. You used to have a little over 8. Now if you go for the XRT version, that does jump up to 8.3 inches of ground clearance. That's going to be the one to get if you want to have, you know, a little more capability there off-road. But you know, 7 inches still should be totally fine for most people in most circumstances. But just one thing to note there on these. And then coming down to the sides, I love how you have the black A-pillar and, you know, this very boxy shape here to this whole side profile. I mean, everyone loves boxy vehicles in America especially, and this is answering that call of a boxy Santa Fe, and I think it's a really cool look. It also has a slight taper and kind of ever so slightly does slope downward here as you get towards the rear, and it's an interesting look in person, but I think it looks great. It's also really cool. You have a little built-in grab handle here that pops out so you can easily access the roof rack there, and a really big quarter window here in the back too, which is great for the new third row that you have in this Santa Fe for the first time, which we'll show in a minute here. But coming out to the back here, the really controversial thing is these taillights, which are very low, and I mean, a huge tailgate. I mean, this Santa Fe badging is enormous, and I mean, the opening here too, you know, most vehicles, the opening stops, you know, about here or so, and you have taillights and all that usual stuff here. This, you know, they just put that down there and made it so this comes right to the edge here, and it's just this massive opening, which you'll see whenever we open this up in a minute. I mean, it is a ton of space and a very large access area there for this cargo area. And then you also have a hidden rear wiper up here, which is a very subtle and a very clever little thing to hide it up there. But overall, I mean, it's just a really cool look out back here. It's going to be a very distinctive, very bold look on the road, and you're going to get a lot of attention, I think, in these new Santa Fe's, because it definitely is going to stand out from the sea of ordinary mid-sized SUVs. Right, so the interior of the Santa Fe here, it's a really impressive design to this whole dashboard. I mean, and especially here in this top calligraphy trim, you have this open pore wood. I'm not sure if it's 100% real wood, but you have some metal accents here, and you have the stitching on the top and also on the middle here. There's all kinds of cool features we'll get into here in this interior. But I mean, overall, the design up front here is really cool in so many different ways. But first thing, sitting down in these seats, you have a bunch of different adjustments here for, you know, even a thigh extender. You have your lumbar adjustment, which by the way is only on the driver's side. You don't have a lumbar adjustment on the passenger side or the thigh support. You know, power seats, of course, here in these top trims, but really soft, comfortable seats. They have, you know, a nice, comfortable amount of bolstering to hold you in place, but not overkill or anything. They're also heated and ventilated seats, which is great. And Hyundai especially does some of the best cooled seats out there. I mean, they get nice and cold. The heating, of course, works great as well, but you know, they're perforated so they don't, you know, get too hot. They breathe in the summer even if you don't have that cooling function on, and overall just really soft, comfortable seats. The steering wheel is another thing. I love the design of this steering wheel. I love how there's these clear cuts here where the buttons kind of go off in their own little pods, and a nice chunky design. I love the metal here on it. Great 9-3 grip, nice 10-2 notches, little paddle shifters here on the back of the wheel. And I mean, even the metal you have here, the metal plated plastic or whatever for these little controllers is really great too. And you'll see your new driver awareness monitor here, which is only on these upper trims as well. And then moving on to the gauge cluster here in the Santa Fe, it's also really great. So only in these upper trims do you get this fully digital display, I believe. You get the 12.3-inch touchscreen as standard, but as far as the gauge cluster goes, it's only in these upper trims where you get another 12.3-inch display, and it's in this curved enclosure, which is really cool. You also see there's a little fingerprint scanner here. You can set that up to do your driver profiles. You can also set it up to actually start the car and all that as well if you'd like, as well as doing a digital phone is key if you want. You know, there's a bunch of different options there. But as far as this gauge cluster goes, I mean, there's a few different customizations. It's pretty familiar if you're used to any of the other Hyundais from the past year or two. They have this you know, new setup here with the graphics that look really great. You can also change that so you have more traditional looking dials. But Hyundai's always just have, you know, this basic thing in the middle here. You know, just scrolls through a few, you know, basic car functions. Nothing too advanced or customizable. You know, you have all this screen real estate. It would be nice to see a little more customization like some competitors do. But you know, it is nice that you have, you know, just the basics there. And then moving on to this center screen. So the screen has a new design that they just introduced here in the Kona last year, and it's great. The biggest thing about it has wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, finally in a Hyundai. It's so great that you have that here. Otherwise though, you know, it just has all your basic functions, and there's a few different looks here. You can have it so that it's, you know, got your map view there and the music and all that, and you can customize the tiles, and there's so much customization in these Hyundai systems, so you can really custom tweak every little function in the vehicle to work the way you want it to. But you know, as far as doing all the basic stuff here, like we'll go over, this one has the radio hidden, but there is also shortcut buttons here, so you can go straight into media with a hard button here and pull up you know, your music that way or whatever. And you know, it's all pretty simple and straightforward. The only complaint that I have with this system, same thing with the Kona, is that if you want to see the song title, you have to go and pull up this, and then that will show it to you there. But unless you're on this whole thing that takes over the entire screen, there's no way to just see the song title here. And that doesn't even show in the gauge cluster or anything. So that is the only little thing I can complain about here that I miss from the old system. But other than that, this whole system works really well. It's really easy to use. And coming down here, I love that you still have dedicated volume and tuning knobs, and climate control knobs are separate. You know, Kia has recently combined the two. It's great to see that Hyundai has kept those separate so that there's no confusion there, and it's nice and simple. Although I admire Kia's ingenuity with their combo setup as well. But this, I think, is a little simpler, and you do have some capacitive touch buttons down here for your heated seat controls, heated steering wheel, all that. But at least it gives you an audible alert whenever you are, you know, changing those. And again, it's great to have the other buttons here and the other buttons down here for your drive mode selector and things like that. Another cool little touch. So moving on to storage spaces here in the Santa Fe, it's really well done. It's so practical, so usable. You do have a pocket here in the door with a bottle holder, which is great. But then in the middle here, you have a double tiered setup. So first down here, you'll see you have this nice big tray that's rubberized. You can fit a ton of stuff in there. There's also a power outlet in there as well. And so that's a great just bonus space. And then coming up top here, you have all kinds of hookups. So you have dual wireless charging here in these upper trims, and you also have USB-C jacks here, and they also are faster USB-C charging, which is great. Another cool touch is you have ultraviolet sterilization that you have in this little bin over here. So you pop this open, another extra space in there you can just use for storage as well if you'd like. But this goes pretty far back, so you can fit most smartphones in there, and of course it's, you know, plenty long. It's just a little narrow, so if you have a chunky case or a pop socket or something, you might have a little bit more challenge there. But that is actually going to sterilize whatever you put in there. I believe you leave it in there for about 10 minutes or so, and that does that whole cleaning process. And that's one of the products of this vehicle being developed in the COVID era. But I mean, we still value, you know, sterilization these days as well. And so it's great that you have that. That's something I don't think anyone else offers, and that is super cool. I really love that feature. Otherwise, you have your two cup holders here, which are a good size, and you have the center armrest, which is nice and softly padded. It's a little high. You do have to kind of sit up a little higher in this vehicle because the door sills and everything is a little high unless you are up kind of high. So if you're someone who's on the shorter side, it's got to jack that seat up so you get comfortable elbow points here. But anyway, you open this up and you will see that you have a nice deep storage space in here. And the really cool thing about this is that it's also double hinged. So it opens in the front, but then it also opens in the back for the rear seat passengers if they want to access that. And that is a really handy touch. So moving on to the second row here in the Santa Fe, it's a good amount of space. They've added about 1.5 inches of rear legroom. You also have more headroom, which is great. Really nice headliner here on these calligraphies as well. And you also have captain's chairs, which is something that, you know, most of the competitors don't offer in this 2-row midsize segment. Captain's chairs are only in this calligraphy trim though, so that's important to note. But you know, really soft, comfortable seats as well. And you also see the door pockets here. You have double bottle holders up top here, another one down below here, and you know, just also heated seats back here as well, which is great. I'm 5'9", and me sitting behind myself, the seat isn't exactly where I would have it, but I mean, I still have plenty of legroom here to spare, good amount of headroom as well. You know, I'm not, again, a tall person, but plenty of headroom here. And otherwise, you know, you have this other really cool drawer down here of extra storage, and again, just makes this vehicle really handy, really, you know, nice for the second row occupants. They also have their own USB-C jacks here, which is great, and little hooks here. And they also get this great view out of this double panel sunroof that we have here, and their own little armrests here. And so it should be really comfortable, but again, anything other than this calligraphy will just get a normal bench here, and that will make this a 7-seater vehicle instead of the 6 seats you have here in this one. Another really nice touch too is that you have these shades here, and this is only on the upper trims that it has this, but you know, great to have that sunshade. And as far as these seats, to move them out of the way to get into the third row, it is power adjustments for part of it, but there is also still a little lever down here to manually move the seat bottom. But the thing I love about this is that it has the same thing we see in the Palisade, where you just have a one-touch button here. You just press this and the seat magically springs forward and gives you access to the third row. There's no fumbling with a heavy lever. It's something that's easy enough that if a kid can reach up and touch that, they can get into the back here all on their own, which is great. And so hopping back here though, it's a nice, soft, comfortable third row. You have not only do you have some cup holders here for them, you have USB-C jacks, they have their own air vents here, and also on the passenger side here you also have a actual AC controller back here, which is great, and another plug here. So they really were focusing on this vehicle being camping ready and being able to throw an air mattress in here, because these seats do all fold flat, so you can make this an actual camping vehicle if you want. But again, being 5'9" with this second row seat slid all the way back as far as it will go, look at this. My knees are just barely, I mean, they're barely up against the seat back here. I wouldn't want to sit back here for several hours like this, but it's comfortable enough, at least for short trips, that honestly, I feel like this is maybe an inch or so less in reality than what I get in like a Palisade or a Telluride. It's really close. I thought this was going to be a lot more of a cramped back seat than it is. It's not cramped at all. It is actually pretty usable. And again, this is a worst case scenario. If you know, Kirk, who's kindly filming for me here from Kirk Kreifel's YouTube channel, you know, he was able to actually slide the seat forward, even him being over 6 feet tall, and give me even more space here if necessary. So if your second row occupants are at all flexible to have a little less space than the max legroom for them, you'll have even more space back here. So this is actually a truly usable third row for adults. You have plenty of headroom as well. I wasn't expecting it to be this good and this usable. It really makes you question, do you need to go up to a Palisade or a Telluride? Because I really think this is going to do the job for most people in a smaller package. And then moving on to the cargo space here, of course, power opening here, especially in these upper trims. And as far as this opening, this is what I was talking about earlier with, I mean, it's 6 inches wider for the width of this opening, and it's a massive amount of space. I mean, we're talking like full-size body-on-frame SUV levels of width here going on, and it's also about 2.5 inches taller for the loading height, and so that's going to make it easier not only just to put stuff in here, but also, again, if you're trying to camp, tailgate, things like that, it's going to be really great. And obviously with these third row seats up, you know, you have about as much space back here as you would have in a Palisade or something like that. You do have a little extra space under here, and it is pretty nice and deep, so if you have, you know, a smaller backpack or something like that, you can actually stow it back there as well. And great, you have also this stuff here for your spare tire. And then, but the thing is, you know, it's easy to drop these. It's just a manual drop here, and they just go right down, nice and easy. And then you have, you know, a good amount of space there, and again, all fully flat, and you know, going to be plenty of cargo space, even if you just want to use this as a 2-row. I mean, it's just a massive amount of space, way more than you got in the old Santa Fe, way more than you get in any other competitors, I think, honestly, and overall just really well done for the cargo space as well. But let's start up and go for a drive. The Santa Fe here has Hyundai's new key with the H logo there in it, and also it has smart park, so you can have the vehicle go forwards and backwards. And of course, again, you don't have to even use this key anymore. You can use the fingerprint scanner. You can also use your phone as a key. A bunch of different stuff that you're able to use, and that of course opens up other options to let other people have access to the vehicle and all that if you'd like. But of course, it is keyless access, keyless entry, push button start is standard. So you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it starts right up. All right, so setting off here in the 2024 Santa Fe. So the first thing you notice about these is the excellent visibility. They did such a good job, of course, with this boxy design. Like any boxy design, it's going to be really good. But I mean, you have a nice big windshield, really thin A-pillars, especially for a vehicle like this. Some other vehicles will have a chunkier A-pillar in this segment, and this is really slim. Even has the Bose speaker built into it, and you still have a really nice small A-pillar. Also, the mirrors off onto the door there, so there's no chunkiness at the base of the A-pillar. Really easy to see forward. View out of the sides is great. View out of the back is also great in typical, SUV fashion. But you also here on these top trims get the digital camera rear view mirror, which is a really nice touch if you have a bunch of people or cargo in the back there, so you have an unobstructed view no matter what. And so other things that I'm noticing off the bat here. So throttle response is nice and smooth, how you would want it to be in, a family crossover. It's not super jumpy or anything. And this 8-speed dual clutch automatic that you have here in the 2.5 turbo versions is also really well calibrated. I mean, it gives you the downshifts pretty quickly there, but it feels a little more relaxed here in the normal mode. There is a sport mode which will make that a little bit more lively, it's just very easy to be smooth. You're not going to be feeling like you're taking off in this vehicle unless you want to. Brakes also have a good amount of travel until you start getting some good bite out of them, so they're not super touchy, very easy to be smooth with. I think it definitely takes a little more effort than some others, which are very eager to brake on you there. But to me, it's appropriate for this type of a vehicle. Having relaxed inputs, I think, is what most buyers are going to want, and I think they did that very well. Also, steering, same deal. It's got some good feeling to it, and is pretty quick and gives you some confidence there, but it's not overly heavy like we see with Mazdas, for example, or some other vehicles in this segment. It actually has some feel to it, unlike stuff like the Subaru Outback, which is rubbery and kind of vague. This gives me confidence, feedback, and just feels really good for electric power steering. And we got a little quick corner here. We can sample the handling briefly. And it's pretty flat. I mean, there's some roll there, again, because we're talking about a family crossover. I'm not going to judge this like a sports car, but, it actually handles really well. This one in particular has the 21-inch wheels because we're in the calligraphy trim here. So you're going to have a little bit of a slimmer sidewall on your tires there. And, it's actually just feels pretty nice. And, again, exactly what you want out of something like this. And I think it's also a step up from the prior generation Santa Fe, which, was still fine and, again, had that comfort focus. But I think this still retains that comfort focus while still giving you, I think, better handling than the last generation. And we got, some sweeping corners here now. And another thing that I have been noticing, we've been riding around this vehicle for a couple of hours now, and you do hear a little bit of road noise from the tires, I will say, and when we were going over some bumps earlier, you do feel them a little bit. I think part of that is these 21-inch wheels, and it just has passive dampers on these. There is no adaptive damper setup or any way to smooth out the ride further. So I'm going to go out on a limb here. I haven't tried these smaller wheels, but I would assume smaller wheels with thicker sidewalls are going to probably give you a little bit of a smoother ride. But the calligraphy wheels here look great, and they make a statement being as large as they are and all that. But, you're going to want to test drive this and make sure the ride isn't super stiff, because to me, this isn't as soft as a Palisade or something. And I think that's the kind of softness that most buyers want. So definitely test drive this, try and take it over some potholes and stuff. See for yourself on your own local roads how the ride quality is, but I don't think it's upsetting in any way. It's it's still very smooth, but I'm just going over this with a fine-tooth comb here, where as we're doing a quick stop, I didn't want to miss the turn there. Brakes, in a situation like that where I'm quickly having to get on them, still very positive with the engagement. Feels great, and it's keeping up with me just fine with my quick turning here. Curb weight here for the Santa Fe is just under 4,500 pounds. It's like 4,486 for the all-wheel drive versions. If you go for front-wheel drive, which is still available here, which is notable, it's going to be 150 pounds less, roughly. And so, I mean, either way, again, we're talking about family crossovers. No one really cares too much, but just to put it in perspective and in reference to, some of the other vehicles like an Outback, things like that, are going to be a little bit lighter. This is definitely one of the heavier ones out there, but, you have the third row in this. You have way more technology than you have in something like an Outback or even a Passport or something like that. And so that's why, yes, you have a little bit more weight here. You may feel that. I would say, you're sitting up higher than an Outback. You definitely have a heftier feeling, I'd say, than an Outback. But, it's, to me, still feels great, and I have no complaints with the curb weight here. But getting back to the fact you have the all-wheel drive and front-wheel drive option, while we have more corners here, you still do have the torque vectoring all-wheel drive system here in these, and it's gonna give you sure-footed traction in all kinds of scenarios. It's gonna, typically be a front bias default. It can go up to 50-50 for the split, depending on the circumstances and all that. But it's great that you do have the front-wheel drive option, which I believe is about an $1,800 savings there, and that is gonna be great for places that don't have bad weather. And most of the other competitors, Mazda's made all-wheel drive standard. Subaru, of course, has always had all-wheel drive as standard, but these are things that none of those other companies honestly give you an option for front-wheel drive, even with the Honda Passport. And so the fact that you have a front-wheel drive option is going to be great to open up that savings that the others won't provide, and is a great way to, I think this is going to really come in lower with the pricing if you are open for that front-wheel drive version. And yeah, but I mean, other things here, there is also a hybrid version that's going to be available here. It's going to go on sale this spring, and that's going to be also a great way to get better fuel economy if that's something you want. But it's great they're giving you that option, another thing that none of the competitors offer. And so I mean, overall, I mean, yeah, going around a few more corners there, it's been really sure-footed, feels great. It's going to be more than enough for every average family driver and crossover buyer. I don't think you're going to have any complaints with the handling here. It's, I'd say, one of the best ones in the segment. But let's go ahead and put it up into the sport mode here, and let's turn down onto this back road and see how it accelerates. And here we go. A little bit of a delay there, and then it kicked right down and full strong. I mean, it's a punchy motor. Hyundai made the choice of giving everyone turbocharged power, which I appreciate as an enthusiast, but it'll be great for passing maneuvers and even just merging onto the highway, things like that for the average driver. So we have the 2.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. It does 277 horsepower, 311 pound-feet of torque. And I've actually been riding with Kurt Kreifels here today, and he's got a race box, so we were able to do a 0 to 60, and we got a 6.8 second 0 to 60 time in this vehicle in real-world testing without any kind of fancy, launch or anything, which I don't think this has a launch control or anything like that. But it's a good amount of punch, and again, plenty for what you're going to need for this kind of a vehicle. And it's also just noteworthy you have the turbo again as standard, yet it still comes in at comparable pricing to Outback XTs and things like that, which make you pay extra for those turbo trims. And a lot of them don't even have turbocharged options like the Passport. And so especially in those higher elevation places where turbos really come in handy, it's great that that's standard across the board here in these. And I mean, it's just so strong combined with this 8-speed dual clutch automatic, which is really smooth, by the way. They've done such a good job of refining this transmission from a drivability standpoint over the past few years, that it is, I think, a good step up from even like the Sorento, which has this same powertrain combo. It was a little rougher around the edges a couple of years ago when those came out. They've really done a good job, at least at Hyundai here, of smoothing that over and making it a lot better than it once was. And so far, I haven't detected any kind of engagement points or any kind of rough shifts or anything like that. It's done a really good job of just fading into the background, which is what you want in a vehicle like this. You don't want it to be a focal point, and it's not. And but if you do want to get fancy, you do have the paddle shifters here. You can play around with doing your own downshifting. We can just, I mean, it's really immediate. And again, there's no jerkiness even in manual mode. And then rolling into it here. It's really smooth. I don't know how many people are going to use the paddle shifters in a Santa Fe. I'm honestly wondering why they include these anymore, because I feel like, unless it's a performance sporty kind of vehicle, no one's ever going to really use those. But it's nice that they offer them if you happen to want to do that for whatever reason. As far as the other powertrain choice of, again, that hybrid I mentioned earlier, that's going to be a 1.6 liter turbo 4, just like it has always been, and it's now hooked up to a 6-speed regular torque converter automatic, and does 231 horsepower, 271 pound-feet of torque, and is going to be less power than what you have with this motor, but is going to give you much better fuel economy. And with the regular gas version here, I believe those are rated about 24 mpg combined, and you go up to 36 mpg combined up to, for the front-wheel drive version of the hybrid, I believe it's 34 if you go for all-wheel drive. But that's a huge improvement, and again, having that hybrid option is huge since no one else in the segment does, and it means that the Santa Fe is going to win by default if you are someone who just wants good fuel economy in this segment. And also the hybrid is only a $500 upcharge over the gas version. So yes, you're going down in power, but you're making a big improvement in fuel economy for basically, you know, a minimal upcharge. And it's great that the hybrid, as popular as they are these days, is only $500 more, especially with everyone having a higher demand for hybrids right now. You would think that they would have tried to maybe upcharge that even more than they did. So I actually have to take my hat off to Hyundai for only making it an extra $500 to give you that extra efficiency if that's something you want. Both powertrains, I'm sure, are going to be fine. We're going to have to wait until later on here, I guess this spring or summer, to drive the hybrid version. So stay tuned and subscribe for my thoughts on that down the road. But it's going to be less power than this, but shouldn't be a huge downgrade because you'll have that instant electric punch from those little hybrid motors helping you out. And so we'll have to wait and see. But I mean, this whole powertrain combo is just really solid and feels really good. Another area where Hyundai also has the bases covered pretty well is with the safety technology and just safety in general here for the Santa Fe. So they give you a lot of standard safety equipment. You get blind spot monitoring as standard, which is great because that's something that a lot of companies will still make you pay extra for. Standard across the board here in the Santa Fe. You have, of course, automatic emergency braking, lane keeping assist is standard. You know, all those things are expected. It also has rear cross traffic alert as standard, and that actually will have an automatic braking feature as standard as well, which is a really nice safety feature to have. Now, there are still a couple of extra cost things like the blind view monitor you don't get in the base versions of the gauge cluster. So you're going to have to go up to these highest trims in order to get the blind view monitor, which is a nice thing, but with blind spot monitoring kind of covering your bases there, that's just like a nice convenience feature more so than a safety thing, but certainly nice to have. The camera rearview mirror is only on these top trims, and also there's evasive steer assist for the lane keep and blind spot system that is only tied into those upper trims as well. So there's a few things there. The other big thing is that you don't get adaptive cruise control as standard. Highway Drive Assist 1 starts with XRT and limited, and then whenever you go to this calligraphy, that's the only way you get Highway Drive Assist 2.0. So, you know, it's only in those upper trims still, and that is a key area where a lot of the other competitors like Honda, Toyota, and others will give you adaptive cruise as standard. Hyundai doesn't. So that is the one key difference, I will say, and I'm kind of surprised, honestly, we don't have at least the HDA one, but it's also surprising that you have two different levels of adaptive cruise here, and that they reserve that top one only for this top calligraphy trim. Another thing here tech-wise, you now have a driver awareness monitor, which is a first for Hyundai in North America, and it's introduced here with the Santa Fe, and that will, of course, be making sure that you're paying attention, keeping your eyes on the road, and if you are diverting off and looking around too much or seem like you're unresponsive, then it can take the appropriate actions to, one, get your attention, make sure that you are responsive and paying attention, but then if it detects that you are not, when you're using the adaptive cruise control system, it'll slow down, stop, put the hazards on, and with a software update coming later, it will also call emergency services if it detects that you are completely unresponsive, and really becomes a valuable safety feature at that point. And some of these driver monitoring systems aren't perfect. I know a lot of people that like driving with their hand on the top of the wheel. It's going to block that sensor and give you a bunch of false alerts that way. There's some things about it that might be annoying for some people. I'm assuming that's something you could also turn off if you'd like, but it is something that I think is a noble cause, with distracted driving being a major problem these days. And then so far I can say, we've only been driving a little bit here. I'll have to wait till I have one of these for a full week to really suss out that system a little bit more. But so far it has not given me any annoying alerts or anything. I've been obviously paying attention, but it hasn't given me any false alerts or anything like that. So far that seems to be pretty well executed. And as far as that adaptive cruise control system, we're not on any highways to test that out here. I'm not sure if we'll have an opportunity to test that today. So again, stay tuned for my week with video where I will test out more. Hyundai systems, in my experience, Kia, Genesis, they've all been kind of hit or miss and a little less reliable in my experience. I know a lot of other people really love this system, but from my experience, at least with windy highways in southwestern Pennsylvania where I live, but even on these windy roads here in Tennessee, whenever Kirk was driving earlier, it seems like it doesn't stay super good with the tracking of the road lines. That's still something it seems to struggle with a little bit. Now, the road lines, maybe aren't painted perfectly. We might have some shadows and stuff here that are playing with it a little bit, but it's something that still doesn't seem like it is quite up to par in my experience, in my opinion, with some of the best systems out there. But again, I will reserve judgment on that for other impressions later on down the road. But I can say that I was pretty impressed with it whenever I had a Kona of this newest generation a few months back. So hopefully with these newest vehicles it has gotten better, so we will wait and see about that. But it's something you're also going to want to test out on a test drive and see how well that works for you on your highways. Now, as far as pricing and how this compares to the competition, I think Hyundai did a really good job with the pricing on the Santa Fe, because these start just over $35,000, again, which includes this turbocharged engine as standard, and that's including destination, by the way. And so for 35 and change, I think that SE comes really well equipped. You get a lot of good stuff in that. Obviously, you're missing out on some of the luxury features and stuff, but again, just whenever you look at Outbacks and stuff, I mean, I think they're going to make you pay a little bit more for the turbocharged versions of those. And then again, if you want that all-wheel drive, it's great that you have that option. It's also great you can have the front-wheel drive and give you that savings there as well. And then whenever you're going up to these top trims, like this calligraphy version, comes in just under $50,000, including the all-wheel drive and all that. And so, I mean, at under 50, I think this is a lot of vehicle. I mean, just with like all the stuff I mentioned on the inside, I mean, I just was in an Outback a few weeks ago, and I mean, this is like light years ahead of that as far as just feeling more futuristic, more spacious, just more customer oriented, with just all the different bins, all the thought through features that Hyundai really focused on for this vehicle. And it's just, it feels bigger. It's just going to be, I think, more vehicle for basically the same money. Now, the Outbacks can't get quite as high. I believe those max out around 46 or so. So in the top end, they do come in a few grand less, but again, you're getting so much less tech. You get a little less torque as well. Those have about 40 pound-feet of torque less. And this also, by the way, for the XRT version, you can tow 4,500 pounds versus, I believe the Outback tops out around 3,500, like most of these regular Santa Fe's do as well. But, there's just some key advantages there. Now, the one thing the Outback has going for it is the extra ground clearance. Those all get 8.7 inches of ground clearance as standard, and you did get a downgrade actually for the Santa Fe here, going to 7 inches of ground clearance when the old one had, I think, about 8.2 as standard. So you do have less ground clearance here. If that is king to you, then Outback still has a niche there where that will certainly win out. But outside of that, I really struggled to see why anyone would get an Outback over this. And it's just, I don't know, I'm just really excited about the Santa Fe. It's also great to have something that's new and fresh, that is bold with the design, that's bold with the interior, that gives you that newest technology, really well executed technology. I mean, the fact you have buttons and knobs versus Subaru just throwing everything in the screen and having it be a laggy screen at that. I mean, it's great that we have physical controls here. It's great you have so much space, so much usability. And also the fact that Hyundai still, is the only one of these competitors outside of the Kia to offer a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Subaru doesn't do that. Subarus, are still reliable vehicles, generally speaking, but they don't put their money where their mouth is with the warranty coverage like Hyundai does. So I think, it's not like the Outback's going to be the only competitor, but I think Passport is very dated at this point. And even Sorento has been around for a few years. It's just getting a refresh here for 2024, but it's not an all-new generation like this is. Sorento, I think, is the strongest competitor, though, because it does also offer that third row, which none of the others offer, and you have the same great technology, you have the same great powertrain in the Sorento. It's just a different flavor, really, and again, it is that kind of older gen platform there for that, but it still is a really solid vehicle. I really enjoyed my time in the Sorento a few years ago, so definitely, one that's worth considering as well, if maybe the looks of the Santa Fe are a little too polarizing, or there's something else about this that, might turn you off. But I think overall, to me, Santa Fe is my new favorite in this segment. This has been an aging segment. We've been wanting some fresh new stuff for a while. We haven't had it, and I think the Santa Fe, should only grow exponentially in sales from here, I think. And yeah, I can't recommend anything else over this. This is hands down my favorite in this segment, and they did a really good job here on the new Santa Fe. So anyway, that's all of my thoughts here on the 2024 Santa Fe for now. Be sure to, again, subscribe and stay tuned for my week with video on one of these here later on this spring, hopefully. But otherwise, let me know your thoughts on the new Santa Fe here in the comments below. Huge thanks to Hyundai for providing me here with this opportunity to review the Santa Fe for you guys today. And yeah, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.